Hey, good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you guys back to the Conversation 98. Hey, it's been a while. Been doing some things this summer, traveling, working. I'm actually traveling right now, but just felt led to come back on tonight and discuss and have a conversation with you. So, man, I'm truly excited and truly happy about being on here again, man. It really means a lot. I appreciate you all, man, and look forward to the conversation tonight. I hope all is well. I hope everything is going well with everybody. And not only that, though, uh, blessings to everybody. Seriously, blessings to everybody. No need for me to. I have no complaints, and I'm extremely happy and excited about the opportunities of being before you again tonight. Um, Back out and traveling for work, so looking forward to that. Been out here traveling for work. Was able to come out to Texas, the great state of Texas. And It's been good out here. You know, still weather still hot out here like it is back home. What's going on, Samuel? How you doing? Thank you for tuning in, brother. Again, man, let me know where you're tuning in from. This episode 218. 218. Been going strong for a long time, and glad to be back before you guys again right now. But we're gonna go ahead on and get started. Ain't no need to hold up, ain't no need to stop it, ain't no need to do nothing but get it going. But feel free to chime in. Feel free to let me know where you're tuning in from. Hey, let's have an open-ended discussion, a dialogue. That's basically what it is. But tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to have a good conversation. And thank you, Sam. You're tuning in from Brooklyn. Got Brooklyn in the house. Brooklyn is in the building. Brooklyn is in the building. So what we're talking about tonight is a conversation we're having tonight is you can't claim to take full responsibility for yourself and allow excuses to coexist. You cannot take full responsibility for yourself and allow excuses to coexist. That's something, shout out to Terry Crews. I know he was talking about this, about taking ownership, you know, and not playing the victim and getting out of the victim mentality. And this is kind of what I want to talk about. This is kind of what I want to discuss. And the reason why I wanted to discuss it, the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it is so critical to be able to understand that you're not the victim. The victim is when you settle for something that may have happened to you. But when you settle for that, right, you allow excuses to be able to coexist. And as long as you allow excuses to coexist, you would never be fully responsible for yourself. You would never be fully responsible for yourself. That's something that we got to really think about. That's something that we got to peel that onion back on. That's something that we have to stand true to. There's a lot of conversations that may be had about it, but I was telling you one thing about it is the playing victim, being the victim or playing victimhood about situations and circumstances in your life. And I'm talking about you from a space to where you aren't in it. You may have grown up through some things, or some things may have happened to you in your past, and you have endured it and you have made it through it. But it's years later and you still sitting here blaming other people for something that you're responsible for. Other people may have hurt you. Other people may have done wrong by you, but you got to take ownership and be responsible for yourself. Because when you start taking ownership and be responsible for yourself, you eliminate excuses, and excuses can't coexist once you take ownership of you. Once you take ownership of your situation, once you take ownership of your circumstance, once you start dealing with yourself, once you start dealing with the whys and the questions behind it. I'm not saying it's easy. I am not advocating that it's easy, but what I am saying is it is definitely your responsibility. It is definitely your responsibility. And that's something to think about, like seriously think about. And as I sit down and I think about a lot of things and I digest a lot of things on my life, you know, we got to be careful because it's very easy to get in a woe is me mindset. It's very easy to get in that space. It is so easy. It is like a natural thing. When something go wrong, something happened to us, we look at it from what somebody else did to me. And the thing that I've learned in my relationship with God is God is not in my areas or in the spaces in my life where I had to choose to heal and I had to choose to take responsibility, what I realized was that my healing was conditioned on me taking ownership of the things of my behavior and my actions in it, and me taking ownership of the role and the responsibilities of things that I had to do so I can heal, and not sit here and wait on somebody and condition it on somebody. And that's what I mean. I'm not saying you don't need other people to help you. I'm not saying other people aren't part of your healing process, but you shouldn't be sitting around here having a woe is me attitude waiting on somebody to come save you. You shouldn't, because it's not a good space. Because most of the time, that's why I would tell you, that's why I said you can't claim to take full responsibility. A lot of people, one of the funniest thing is a lot of people sit around and be like, oh, I'm me. I'm just doing me. I'm free and I'm living my truth and I'm doing all this, that, and the third. But the reality is you're living a lie. And the lie that you're living is because you refuse to take responsibility and start dealing with certain things so that you can heal. Yes, your daddy wasn't there. Yes, your mama wasn't there. Yes, you was neglected. Yes, you was abused. Yes, you was mistreated. And I'm not dismissive of that. But you have to make that determination to say, hey, I'm going to do the work to deal with me. I'm going to do the work to process this. I'm going to do the work and I'm going to seek God. And I would tell you, once you make that decision, God will start answering. God will set it up, because your healing is many times conditioned on you willing to challenge and change your own mindset about what happened to you. And once you get to that space, you will see it's a freeing space to be in. And I'm being honest with you. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. Let's have the conversation. And this is what I mean by being honest and have that conversation, right? Think about it. If we sit down and we think about it, how many of us have sat down and somebody has done something wrong to us? They've done wrong by us. They've done something to betray us. They've done something to hurt us. They've done something to let us down, right? And we sit there and we hold them to the T. We want to hold them accountable for their actions. We want them to pay for it. We want them to take full ownership of it. We want them to apologize. We want him not only to apologize, we want to see a consistency of changed behavior. We hold them and we will crucify them because we want justice for the things that they did. But how many of us have that same level and that same energy when it comes to when the shoe on the other foot, when we've done wrong by other people? Now we want grace. Now we want mercy. Now we want people to be patient with us. Now we want people to be forgiven to us. Why? Because it's so easy to persecute others and expect grace. And we have to deal with that. That's why it's so important to realize that you are responsible for your healing. It's not conditioned on nobody else. It's not. And I say that it's not. Like listen, when we get to a space, man, and I would tell you, this is a good conversation right here. One of the hard things people struggle with forgiveness is when we start talking about forgiveness, we struggle with letting go of what we think the other person deserves or what the other person may even deserve. We struggle with letting it go because we want them to feel that way. And many of us, we choose to hold on to stuff as if because I hold on to it and I don't want to address it, I don't want to face it, I don't want to acknowledge it, it's going to somehow do some harm to that other person. That other person ain't even thinking about what happened. That other person probably didn't even know that they did something to you or could care less. And you sitting around here holding it, trying and subconsciously thinking that you're going to hurt them by holding it. And that's not healthy. That is a way of inviting unneeded stress to your life and to cause your life to be a space of dysfunction, all because you're hoping to get back at somebody when you really need to let go and forgive. You really need to let go and forgive. And I talked about forgiveness before a long time ago on this platform, but I want to talk about it a little bit now. I've heard many people say, and I'm a personal witness, I've heard many people say forgiveness is not for the other person, but it's for you. And the thing about forgiveness, I want us to kind of think about it is forgiveness is not right now. Forgiveness is making a decision right now for results that you're going to see in the future. I want to say that again, because many times I made a decision, I made a mental decision to forgive somebody that it took about 2 to 3 years of a process for my heart and my mind and my heart and my feelings and my emotions to catch up to my decision that I made. And the reason why I made that decision, because I did not want what potential hurt or what potential that they did to me to be an anchor and to be a hindrance for me to carry around dead weight. I did not want that. So I made a logical decision that it took me 3 years for my emotions to catch up to it, but I made that choice. Hey, how you doing? We said, got a comment, said, we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behavior. That is so good. I got to expound on that one too. Thanks for that. And that is a true statement. And one of the very, very truest statement in the world. But the statement is, we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behaviors. And we are cutthroat when it comes to judging other people by their behaviors, but we expect other people in return to understand our intentions behind it. Because sometimes a lot of hurt and a lot of things that happen, it's not even intentional. It wasn't even done intentional. There wasn't even any malice to it, but it caused hurt to you. You know, my daddy, I had an issue with my father because I felt like my father wasn't there for me, but he was doing things as far as with serving God, and he was helping other people. He was at home every day, but he wasn't giving me what I desired from my father. So I had an issue with my father, but it wasn't as if my father was willfully neglecting me. He realized some error in his ways, and eventually God restored that relationship. But I had to deal with my issues with that before God even initiated the possibility of reconciliation. I had to do it. And I'm telling you, not only from a hurtful place, but I remember this. I remember this vividly, and I want to share this. Thank you, God. I want to share this. You know, I had to learn that I was responsible for dealing with my hurt, because that was connected with something subconsciously that I was having a grudge against my daddy, because I expected a desire that I had from my daddy wasn't getting fulfilled with me. So I held a grudge. My daddy didn't do anything neglectful or intentional or malice towards me, but I had an issue to the point to where it got to a space to where God, I started to deal with me, and I asked God, what is, what is wrong with me? Why am I the way I am? And God said, you got an issue with your daddy. And I was like, no, I ain't got no issue with my daddy. The Holy Spirit said, you got an issue with your daddy because you felt this way about this, that, and the third. And at that moment, I had to deal with the reality of the root cause of my issue. And once I started that, that's when I was truly able to start on the healing journey. And God restored the relationship of me and my father, because I began to understand that it wasn't intentional. And you see what I'm saying? That's in the moment where I took full responsibility and I eliminated excuses. You know, that I eliminated excuses. You know, one of my songs I did is the title of it is "Eliminate Excuses," and the hook of it is said, "No need to talk if you ain't gonna do no work. Nobody care if you get your feelings hurt." You see what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that to be insensitive or anything, but the reality is the world don't care about what your hurt is. You can choose to carry it around. You can choose to allow that to impact you. You can choose to hope in somebody else gonna feel sorry for you, but most of the time they won't. And you're the one that's carrying it around. And you'll find yourself carrying something around for 30 or 40 years. You're carrying it. You're the one miserable. And you're blaming everybody else, but it's you, because you refuse to take full responsibility for it. And you want to blame everybody else for it. And because blaming everybody else for it keep you with the justification of your own excuses. They keep you with that. And this is the thing, man. I want us to kind of sit down and think about it. All right. No matter what, this is a real good thing. And I want people to think about it. No matter how much you try to justify it, excuses, it still would never take away the fact that the reality that you still got to deal with yourself. In order for you, that situation to change, you still got to deal with yourself. Yeah, your daddy wasn't there. Yes, your daddy was neglectful. Yes, and this is the thing about it. Once you start dealing with you and the reality of you in that situation, God will begin to open up your eyes and give you grace to see the flaws in the other person. And you'll realize, dang, daddy wasn't there because daddy was working through some stuff himself. Mama wasn't there because mama was working through some stuff herself. Dang, I didn't even know this happened to mama. Dang, how did they carry that? Dang, I can see why they did that. It still hurt me, but I can see, and that will help soften your heart towards you starting to take full responsibility. Now you eliminate that excuse associated with it, and now you're on your path to healing. You're on your path to healing. And this is the stuff nobody likes talking about. If we sit down and think about it, nobody likes talking about healing because healing is not sexy. I will say that again. Nobody likes talking about healing, accountability, and responsibility because it's not sexy. You know, if I sit around and I have excuses, I can go around all the time with my woe is me story, and many people will sit around and want to listen to it. Many people will sit around and what there's not only sit around and listen to it, they'll sit around and play the violin with you. And yeah, man, this happened to me, man. This, that, and the third. Yeah, man. And you still sitting there stuck 10 years from now in the same space, in the same place. You stuck 9, 10 years from now in the same space because you refuse to eliminate any excuses. And you continue to allow those excuses to coexist with your reality. And in order to evict those excuses, you have to just take full ownership. And once you take full ownership, you will realize that now you are empowered to start taking inventory and start cleaning out. And cleaning out the stuff that don't need to be there anymore. You will realize that, and you realize how freeing that is. You will realize how freeing that is. You'll realize how empowering that is. You'll realize how not only freeing and empowering that is, but how necessary that is. Like, for real, like, think about it. The sad reality is there's a lot of people that have been carrying around stuff for so long, all because they're refusing to take responsibility of something that's been attached to your life for years upon years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, for a moment or a incident that somebody did in a couple of minutes or a few months, you carrying around for years because you refuse to take full responsibility and eliminate any excuses so that you can get over it, so that you can process it, so that you can heal, so that you can grow, so that you can expand, so that you can get away from the things that you're dealing with, but you can grow. And that's the thing about it. People waste years of their lives wanting to blame other folks because they like having that excuse, because they feel like it justified them for their mediocrity. It justified them to stay where they at. It doesn't justify that. You still just going to be miserable. You still going to be miserable. You still going to blame everybody else around you. And this is the thing. The funny thing with that is this, like, no matter what, and I want people to really think about it, and this is something that everybody should think about, but the sad reality is this. The sad reality is the people who refuse to take responsibility so that and want to hold on to excuses, even if somebody who did them wrong apologized and took full ownership, even if they came to them, even if they did everything to reconcile, those people would not know how to accept it because they have become so accustomed to identify by the excuses that they give that they refuse to get to know the reality of who they are with who they are by taking ownership of the things that may have happened to them. So they can't even recognize, they don't even know what to do with it. And then you sitting around, oh, I've been waiting 20 years for them to apologize, and they apologize. You don't even know what to do with it because you never done the work to deal with yourself, to get to know yourself. You're operating in survival mode, but you sitting there desiring to be loved. And that's a conflict of interest. That's a conflict of interest. And that's something that is something that we really need to sit down and think about. She said, and some people are addicted to their story. They benefit from being broken. Yeah. So I want to expound on that. That is a real good comment. Some people are addicted to their story and they identify by being broken. they benefit from being broken, but they only benefit from being broken in seasons. What doesn't go away is they may feel like, and they make those people become very manipulative. They're manipulators. And what they end up doing is they become leeches, and they are just connected with people that they can pull from and benefit from, long as it's benefit them. As soon as any accountability for them, they're going to find problems. They're going to gaslight. They're going to do all of these things to try to point the blame on somebody else. But they don't really benefit from their brokenness, because their brokenness is a source. It's a constant source of discomfort and frustration, because internally they're lonely. And they don't even know how to reconcile that. And to reconcile their loneliness, they got to first take responsibility. But they feel like they're getting over because they feel like they're getting over because they seek those highs. They seek those highs. That's why when you see a lot of people like that, they go from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, and it's the same cycle. They come in, they good. Man, I'm telling you, man, listen. It is so important, and I want people to understand this. One of the things that I love the most and that I've learned is about when you start talking about brokenness. One of the reasons why the enemy don't want you to realize that you broke is because when you're broken, from a spiritual standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, from a mental standpoint, when you are broken, you're easily controlled and manipulated. But the enemy gets you to think that it's you, but it's really putting you in the same cycle, and you'll stay in that space. And you'll stay in that space of loneliness, and you'll stay in that space of using others, and you'll stay in that space of burning yourself out mentally, always feeling like you got to control things. And the reason why you want to seek control, the reason why you're seeking control is because that's a coping mechanism for you. Because you feel like you're in control. You feel like you can control and manipulate everything so it can be favorable for you. But then what you'll find out is you'll find yourself 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, still that same miserable person on the inside, because you never took time to take responsibility, and you allow excuses to continue to coexist. You do. And that's something that you're going to have to take responsibility for. That's something that you're going to have to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna address it. I'm gonna deal with me. And listen, I'm not coming from a space of I'm coming from a space of somebody who this has been a reality for me. This has been something that I've lived through. I'm 45 years old, man. I've been through some things, right? And the hardest work to ever do is to deal with the reality of you. That's some of the hardest work you will ever have to do. Because dealing with the reality of you will cause you to face the very thing that you see, that you know on the inside of you, but you've been refusing to look in the mirror and acknowledge that it's there. You can feel that it's there. You deal with the emotions that are there. You deal with the highs and the lows that is there. You deal with the fear that is there. You deal with all of that, but you choose to ignore it because now you can manipulate and lie to yourself. You can manipulate and attempt to use the justification of excuses to tell yourself stories so that you can feel good because you are afraid. And the fear is that you would not get what you feel like that you lost, but you stay stuck in the same place, holding on to something that continue to dig you down a hole that eventually it's hard to come from. That is some stuff that I would tell you. That is some stuff that we got to look at. Those are some things. Those are some realities. Those are some truths. And to realize that, hey, you can't say that you're being responsible and then want excuses to coexist. You know, that's just like, and I'm going to say this, man. I'm going to say this. I want us to think about it. This is a funny thing, but a little humor with this, but it is what it is. You can't be no kid talking about you grown and still your parents taking care of you. That's the same thing talking about I'm responsible, but I want the freedom of being an adult, but I don't want none of the responsibility. But I feel like you supposed to provide this to me. What we doing? You know what I'm saying? That's a double-minded. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. If you sit down and think about it, that's a double-minded person. And many of us are double-minded. We want the justification of excuses for not taking ownership for something that happened to us and it impacted our lives. and we sit around and want other people to take responsibility for it. Even if they take responsibility for their action, you still will always be the sole person responsible for you and your healing. Other people can assist you on your journey, but they cannot walk the walk for you. It can't happen. It cannot happen. But man, I tell you, man, I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Didn't want to be on before you guys long tonight. I hope this was helpful. I just like to do content that talk about things that other people really don't talk about from a Christian perspective. Hopefully it can bring some clarity. And I try to be transparent as possible. Look, I ain't perfect. Got my issues. I got things I go through. And I just try to talk about things because we all got a life that we got to live. And, you know, I just want us to, it's so freeing when you start to take, man, I would tell you, you got to sit down and think about it. But it's so freeing when you start taking ownership and responsibility for things that may have happened to you in your life. And you start taking ownership, and it's not dependent on whoever calls you hurt and pain. It's not dependent on it's not conditioned on nobody else but you and your willingness to do the work so that you can heal. And what you'll start to find out is a lot of stuff that may have happened to you was not intentional. It was done from broken people in broken places. And once you start to deal with that, what you'll start to realize, you will start to realize that they don't have power over you. You forfeited power and you gave them power because you was too afraid to deal with and address and take ownership, take full responsibility for it. Because when you take responsibility for it, that's an eviction notice for excuses to leave that situation. Nah, you no longer welcome here. I appreciate you for what you did, but now you got to go. Man, you got to go. Man, I really appreciate the interaction. Thank you so much. Make sure y'all go and like and share this. I'm on YouTube, The Conversation 98 on YouTube, Conversation 98 here on Facebook. Also, The Conversation 98 on Instagram, as well as The Conversation _98 on TikTok. So I hope you guys have a great day. And yeah, very, very thank you. I appreciate it. It said too many people suffer in silence. And I'm glad you said that because, you know, the reality is I suffer in silence so much. That's a reality. Many people suffer in silence. And we suffer in silence because of shame. And the reason why I say we suffer in silence because of shame is many people are refusing to share and talk about certain things. The Bible said we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And I just try to get on here and share things from a different perspective because I know what it's like to be in a lonely place. I know what it's like to be in a space where, hey, it doesn't feel like you're going to get help. I know what it's like to be in a space where you don't feel like you got to fight to keep going. I know what it's like to smile, but you crying inside. I know what it's like to deal with loneliness. I know what that's like to be in front of people and be the person that you are encouraging people, but you are hurting on the inside. I know what that's like. So if you're suffering in silence, realize you're not alone, man. There's a lot of people that know what you're going through and can relate. A lot of people. So I just wanted to share that, man, and really be open and transparent about it because I think that is therapeutic. Because when you start sharing some things, especially like stuff that you are conscious about, you know, you'll start to realize a lot of stuff that you're self-conscious about, other people don't care. It's not a big issue to them. It's not. And this is just me on just some personal stuff. Like we all got those areas, man. We all got things. We got areas. But what I started to realize the more I'm willing to be like, okay, this is what it is, you'll start to realize there's a lot more people real understanding. And you'll realize you didn't have to walk in silence. So don't suffer in silence. You got people that's there with you. Hey, go check out my platforms. Again, Conversation 98. And hey, you guys have a blessed and wonderful week. See you later. God bless.